It's a bye week for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and we still got lots of stuff to talk about when it comes to college football and the NBA and OKC. Hello, I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, and welcome to another live edition of the Press Row, our weekly roundtable with the Oklahoman's columnists from the Dodge Sports Desk. Joining me today are Barry Trammell, who will talk about the voices of the Thunder, Jenny Carlson, who wonders if Sam Bradford and not Tim Tebow is the favorite for this year's Heisman Trophy, and John Rohde, who sees a repeat of 2004, not 2003, with OU and USC in the title game. John, we'll start with you. Last week, in the pregame package we did for the Oklahoman, we compared the 2003 Sooners with the 2008 Sooners. You see a different comparison. You're looking at 04. Tell me why that one works better.
Well, Barry broke his down in terms of personnel because he's smarter than I am. I just went with the overall teams. It's the same usual suspects: USC, OU, possibly Auburn, somebody from the SEC, and even somebody from the Mountain West could go unbeaten. And I don't know, more than anything, I'm just looking for a bookie who'll give me OU in 37. That's what I'm looking for. Because I hope we have a repeat of the matchup, but not a repeat of the game.
I read your story. Terry Donahue seems to be a little over-optimistic about it'll be a great game. Right now, guys, it doesn't look like these. It looks like OU's a really, really good team, and it looks like USC is a team for the ages.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Oklahoma's looked about as good as USC. The problem they have is when they'll play, which is, OU can't beat Boise State and West Virginia in January. How are they going to beat Southern Cal? So I think OU matches up reasonably well with Southern Cal. It's just the bowl slump makes you not want any part of the Sooners in January.
I was looking at USC's schedule today, and I was looking for those other big games on their schedule. They have Arizona State in a few weeks. But when you really start thinking about the Pac-10 and the kind of competition that's out there this year, it's really not great. Oregon's lost their quarterback. They're going to be scrambling a little bit. I just don't see USC tested again. It's going to be really interesting to see if Beanie Wells gets back with Ohio State. Listen, he is not enough of a difference maker that Ohio State would have won that game. But how much of a difference does he make for that team? What does that say about USC? Because I really don't see USC getting tested again until their bowl. And right now, that looks like that's going to be a national championship game.
John, you don't see them matching up that well, it doesn't sound like.
No. Well, here's the thing that's unfair is USC's got the yellow brick road compared to the SEC champ if it's unbeaten in the Big 12 and that goes for Missouri too, by the way. But you know what? I think the Big 12 will be left out. I don't know what Barry thinks, but if three unbeatens.
Yeah, I don't see an SEC getting through unbeaten. I just don't see it. Too many pitfalls. Big 12's okay, but Oklahoma and Missouri, I think conceivably could both go unbeaten and meet in Kansas City. But SEC, it's just too many landmines for anybody to get through. The Pac-10 is weak. Last week they had one of the worst weeks in the history of major college football. I think they go 3-7. They go 0-4 against the Mountain West. Yeah. And one of the games they won was in double overtime, Oregon and Purdue. So it looks pretty rosy for USC.
USC has an upcoming game against Oregon, but Oregon's quarterback's going to miss that game. Not good.
Are they down to number 3 quarterback?
I think so.
Yeah.
And then USC's got Oregon State a couple years ago in the fog. That tended to be their undoing, but I think they won the national championship anyway that year, or shared it with LSU.
They've had a game all along. Stanford was that game last year. Totally out of the blue, they lose to Stanford. So they've got to guard against that game, because I think if they stumble, I think it could really be hard for USC to make up that ground, because the Pac-10 is going to be so weak. You're just going to, as voters are going to look at that and go, they've not been tested, and if you have a stumble, I just think they're going to have a hard time getting back into that discussion. If you've got a one-loss or an undefeated SEC team and potentially an undefeated Big 12 team, I think they could then trump USC in a national championship race.
Well, the SEC has the tiebreaker. If there's a one-loss team, I don't think we're not going to see an Auburn get left out anymore the way we saw in 2004. We saw it last year with LSU, a bunch of two-loss teams. LSU got the nod, deservedly so, I think. I think it's the same thing this year. I think the SEC has the tiebreaker.
So if the SEC is 12-1 and OU is 13-0, they're out?
No, the tiebreaker if they're both 12-1.
Okay.
Or if USC
I thought
is
you were saying over and unbeaten.
No. But if they're all one loss,
okay,
I think the SEC gets the nod.
John, I like what you said today in the paper and on News OK. It's, hey, based on what happened last year, isn't it kind of crazy we're talking about all these undefeated teams? Dennis Dodd says, aren't we getting a little ahead of ourselves? Wasn't there a team called Stanford in USC's past? Wasn't there a Colorado for OU? Why are we talking about this?
Well, here's the deal. I sent out emails to all these guys. I go, look, it's an open date. I'm bored. Forgive me.
Good point.
And I go, at the very end, I go, by the way, if you think I'm an idiot, feel free to express that too. 3 guys said I was an idiot.
Which ones? I want to know.
DeFresne from LA Times, Wojo, but I get along with him. And I think, Stuart Mandel did, but then he wrote about it himself.
Nice.
So, but
that's what I say. You guys picked me an idiot. What an idiot. Oh, good story. Jenny, let's move on to stay on football, but let's talk about the Heisman. Something else you talk about in the open week. You're going to take a look at how Sam Bradford fits into the Heisman picture in your column on Friday. My question is, with Tim Tebow, the incumbent, sitting in the White House of Heisman Trophy, how does Sam's candidacy get off the ground, or how does he fit in?
Yeah, I think he fits in pretty well, actually. I sent out, as did John, a few emails to people and said, hey, give me your thoughts on this. What do you think? And I think that the incumbency of Tim Tebow may actually work against him. He had such a great year last year. He, when the Heisman voting was done, he had scored 51 touchdowns, 51 by the end of the year. He had 55. When you look at his numbers, and he's going to be measured, Tim Tebow in 2008 is going to be measured against Tim Tebow in 2007.
just like Jason White.
That's right.
If you look at those numbers, he is going to be hard-pressed to come up with those kind of stats again this year. He could have another great year. Florida could have a great season. But he's really up against himself. And so that's going to be hard to top. I think guys like Chase Daniel and Sam Bradford are going to be right there in the mix. Now, the tricky thing is with those two guys, they may not meet or potentially until the Big 12 championship game. And by then, you could have a lot of voters with their mind made up, either going with Bradford or going with Daniel. So I think it's going to be really an interesting race. And I think it could come down to those two guys. Mark Sanchez from USC is going to be in the mix. I think you're looking at Tebow, Daniel, Bradford, and Sanchez as being really the front-runner guys. I like Noshawn Moreno from Georgia, but I'm just not sure he's got enough pop or will have enough yardage. But those 4 quarterbacks, to me, are the guys that right now you have to look at and say those are the ones that are going to be right there in the mix at the end.
Well, John, as you look at this thing, I think I remember you saying Jeremy Maclin is your Heisman candidate from Missouri.
Yeah.
And that's going to hurt. I mean, that's the Jason White, Adrian Peterson split.
That's
that could
because
hurt
I don't want
Chase
Chase Daniel to win. I'm voting for Jeremy Maclin. No, that's not it. But here's the deal. Should people and will people forget about last year? Because last year shouldn't have anything to do with this year. I thought, and when Jason finished, did he finish 3rd or 4th?
He
finished 3rd. Well, AD took his votes. I don't think Tebow has a teammate. I don't think Devin will take any votes from him. But you got to forget last year. You can't award this year's Heisman based on last year.
Talking about forgetting last year, though, Barry, do people forget that the last time OU had a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback, a lot of people saw what happened to Jason after college football and said, hey, I want my Heisman vote back. In fact, why don't you hand over the Heisman, and started calling him the new Gino Torretta. If people can't forget last year, can they forget what happened last time at OU?
Yeah, because most of us don't have long memories. You look at what happened with Troy Smith, won it in whatever year that was, 06, and he just got avalanched out in the BCS title game in Arizona. So I don't think people will hold that against. I don't think people will hold Jason White's Sugar Bowl against Sam Bradford. I do think Tim Tebow is going to be on a bunch of national stages.
Right.
He's got Tennessee coming up immediately, but he's got Georgia in a huge game. He'll have Florida State at the end of the year. He's got a lot of chances, probably more so than any other player right now. What's left in front of him, more than any other player to make his case. I think Chase Daniel, he's got Texas and Kansas, and then perhaps Kansas City. Bradford's got Texas and Texas Tech. He's got a chance to do it too, but Tebow's probably got more chances than anyone.
Here we go back to 03, though. And as you look at Sam, and let's just talk about Sam's performance on the field. He's hitting receivers on stride. He's throwing the deep ball. He is spreading the ball around like crazy. That's where the 03 comparisons seem to come in. In fact, when Jason White came in the studio to do a video, there was a picture of Sam, I believe, or Jason on one screen and Sam on the other, and the throwing motion was eerily similar. In fact, Jason even said, he goes, you know what? Yeah, we do kind of throw the ball alike. What do you guys think about the comparison between those two performances?
No, geez, that's tough to do. It depends on teammates and everything else. But I know this: they rank high in passing efficiency, and I know I can't figure it out. I'm not Mr. Math. But hey, if you're going by numbers, Bradford should be the leader. Or David Johnson from Tulsa. We got the number 1 and 2 quarterbacks in the country in passing efficiency here. So.
Yeah, I mean, Bradford's numbers, you can't ignore him. He's had, I think it's over 8. I can't even remember the yardage off the top of my head, but 12 touchdowns already, 2 interceptions. But the thing about Jason, I mean, the reason that to me Jason White is you set him apart with that season, when he finished the regular season, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Yeah. I mean, 2 interceptions and 12 touchdowns. Hey, you look at that and you go, that's a great number. 40 and 4. To me, that's just a ridiculous numbers to put up with touchdowns and interceptions. So Sam Bradford, though, is going to continue to have good numbers. When you have 5 touchdown passes a game, he's done that 2 games in a row. If he continues on that pace, those are hard numbers to ignore, regardless of who you're playing. But
hard numbers to ignore.
Hey, I'm having some deja vu here. But Barry's right. Tim Tebow, big stages repeatedly. He's going to be out there. Georgia game, Tennessee game this week. He kind of gets the stage a little bit to himself. So if he can take advantage of that, you just never know what could happen with his candidacy.
I want to ask you guys one related question, though. Last week there was a big debate in the office as we were watching these games and listening to the Oklahoma State game. Zach Robinson barely throws any passes and comes out of the game. Des Bryant, a candidate really for a lot of postseason honors, Blitnikoff Awards, he does no action in a blowout game. Then we look up, and there's Missouri on TV against Nevada, which is a Division I program. But still, he's in there accumulating all kinds of stats late in the game. They're throwing bombs. Him and Macklin are going crazy. Which is the better way to go for a team and a postseason chase? What Gundy did against Missouri State or what Gary Pinkel did last week against Nevada?
I think what Gundy did's better. I don't think hard stats win a guy a Heisman. I think it's how you do in big games. I think Jason White won the Heisman in 2003 because OU beat Texas 65-13, and Jason played fantastic. And that's the year they beat Oklahoma State 52-9 on national television and played fantastic. And that's how you win you win your Heisman in 3 or 4 big games. You don't win a Heisman against Nevada and Missouri State. So I think Gundy was probably on the right track.
Well, this is where you hope people are paying attention. Those who vote, they pay attention to who you're playing, when you're playing them, the circumstances involved.
And their elimination games against big teams. Hey, let's jump over to the Thunder. Barry, yesterday the Thunder announced, here's the announcers. Brian Davis, a guy who was doing sideline stuff and pregame and postgame stuff for the Sonics when they were in Seattle. And then they also brought in Grant Long, a power forward who spent a lot of his NBA career with the Miami Heat. I know who Grant Long is. He was on my fantasy basketball team one year. I think he's like 14 and 11 or something, points and rebounds. Really good. How do you think the team did with its choices?
Well, I think it's very good. I think Brian Long and Grant Davis are great. I think they're fantastic additions to the Thunder family. I got to be honest. Until we ran, I was flying home from a little vacation last night, so I wasn't here for the announcement, and I didn't know really too much until I picked up the paper today. I got to be honest. I didn't even know if Grant Long was black or white until I saw her picture in the paper today. So he went to Eastern Michigan. I assume he played for Ben Braun back in the early 90s. I don't even know. I'm just grasping. I don't have any idea. Brian Davis has a good resume. If he's got anything like the personality of our Brian Davis, the longtime
Dallas
Morning News writer who used to cover OU. He's going to do fantastic because Brian is rip-roaring funny.
He's got the best Bob Stoops imitation.
He does a great Bob Stoops. He got that old Southwestern twang that we all need. I assume this Brian Davis doesn't, having lived most of his life in the great Northwest. So I don't know. If they're okay, good, but to me it's fairly it's hires that lack sizzle. I don't have good answers for them.
You just proved that.
Yeah, our local ties for color analysts, you know, I don't know.
You've been pushing the local guys.
I like the local guys, but not for radio. For radio, I want Ashbeck on the radio. I don't know about television. I don't know how Mark Price would do. Wayman, is fighting the cancer and so is unavailable. No big names. Alvin Adams is a Phoenix institution, not Oklahoma City anymore. So what they've got to do now, I think, is on the sideline. The old Jordy, what was his name? Holberg. Jordy Holberg did the sidelines for 2 years with the Hornets. They need a local guy with some sizzle, with some personality that people know. I think that would pad up the local angle. But I'm willing to give Brian Davis and Grant Long the benefit of the doubt and give them a chance. I mean, I'm certainly going to invite them into my home about 40 times a year this year, so I hope we get along.
Well, that's the other big news coming out of that was 82 games. They want to televise all, so we're going to really get to know these guys. Jenny, you wrote a column a couple days ago, basically about that point, and that these guys, in some ways, are going to be more familiar to and more part of how we experience the team than Kevin Durant.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more people that watch these games on TV, and now with this announcement that every game is going to be on, I think there's going to be thousands and thousands and maybe even millions. I mean, when you talk about the worldwide reach of the NBA, whether it's internet or NBA TV, I mean, all the things that are out there, I mean, these guys are really going to be the voice that people come to associate with this team. So, while these crowds at the Ford Center are going to be massive, it's going to be a lot bigger audience that's watching these guys on TV. So what they do as far as style and context and how they introduce this team essentially to people is going to be really important. So I'm like Barry. I don't know much about Brian Davis and Grant Long. And, you look at Brian Davis having done radio for the Seahawks for a while, for Washington State. He was obviously part of the Sonics TV crew. You know that he's got good experience in his background. But, this is going to be an important person, an important voice for the Thunder moving forward because of how many people are going to come to know this team by these guys.
Where's Ron Thulin? He's an NBA guy. He did the Hawks. He was on TNT. He's got the local knowledge. He went to SNU, and I think they blew it. I don't know why they didn't hire Ron Thulin, but I thought he was an obvious pick. I'm with Barry. I thought on the sidelines, and they do have a sideline reporter left, but Brent Price, John Starks, Wayman's busy. He's got stuff to do. Here's a dark horse. How about Rinzai Stone? I mean, just a sideline guy. He's only going to say 7 words a game. I mean, how tough can that be?
World's tallest PR guy could also be the world's tallest sideline reporter. I don't know if
he can help out if the injuries mount. He could help out in practice.
Hey, maybe that's why they brought Grant Long along too.
Let's go back to this question of getting to know these guys. John, you grew up in Colorado, Denver Nuggets fan. Who was the voice of the Denver Nuggets with you?
Jeff Kingery and Ben Martin. I mean, just a lot of guys.
Ben Martin, the old Air Force coach?
Yeah, well, no, Bob Martin. Bob Martin was the Nuggets, and not the Nuggets with the Broncos, but I think Broncos before I think Nuggets. But I was at the Nuggets game, but Jeff Kingery was there when I was there.
But those guys are huge. I mean, I think we may come to love these guys as our own quickly, because I part of what I wrote the other day was my memories as a child were listening to the Royals on radio,
Ouch.
which, nowadays would be like, don't drag me through that mud.
Better than having to watch them.
But Denny Matthews and Fred White were the guys on radio, and, honestly, I don't know whether they were good or bad, but I just remember that they were so much a part of that experience for me. And so, these guys are important. Now we watch TV a lot more than we listen to games on radio. So what these TV guys are like is going to be big. Maybe they're not beloved now or well known now, but maybe in 2 or 3 years we'll think, man, I can't imagine watching a Thunder game without these guys calling it.
They got to do 3 things. Number 1, they got to interpret the NBA to a new audience and do it in an interesting way. I think 2, they got to be great storytellers. And if you look at all the people that we grew up listening to, they had that quality. They could tell great stories. And number 3, I think if they get out in the community, and this is one of the reasons why these 2 guys got the job is they're willing to relocate to Oklahoma City, not just come in here, live in a hotel for a few months during the season, and then go back to Charlotte or wherever it is there. They're going to be here. They're going to be out in the community in the summertime, maybe doing clinics, who knows what. Grant Long, you can see him doing those kinds of things. So that really ingrains them in the community. I think that's a winning combination. At one point, John Brooks was a nobody to everybody, right? Bob Berry Sr. At one point, that was just a name. Bob Berry, come on. Now these people are institutions. I say give them a chance, and I do think it's great if they get a local flavor. That's going to be interesting to watch, although it would be very interesting if Al Eschbach is that local flavor. Let's take some reader questions. First question, when are we going to start seeing some players around here for the Thunders? A reader wants to know, when are we going to start hearing from the players? Barry, any idea on that?
Well, I think that'll start almost any time. Heck, they start training camp, in 12 days? Mm-hmm. So sometime in the next 12 days, I'd say. But they'll be filtering in. And I'm with the question. I'm tired of all Clay Bennett and Sam Presti and people who don't shoot baskets and play defense. I'm ready to interact and talk and listen to some of the guys who actually play the game.
Now, in our deep, long history of NBA experience, remember when the Hornets acquired somebody, they sat Peja Stojakovic down in front of us and had a press conference, said, here's Peja. They signed Bobby Jackson, Tyson Chandler. That summer, there was just sort of a parade of new players coming through. I liked that. It broke up the summer. I guess there were logistics problems. Why didn't that happen this time? Anybody know?
I think it was because they really just had a lot of other stuff they were trying to get done. They wanted to unveil the name first. That was what I always heard, that they wanted to get the name and logo out before they brought the players in. But I'm like you. I hope that what we saw this summer isn't a repeat of more off seasons. When you acquire somebody, bring them in, get them out there, get them talking and walking, and so people can actually see, who is this guy in more of a local context. So yeah, I really hope that, some of these draft picks, that we get a chance to meet them before those first days of practice. I would really like to see them come to town and address the media and start to talk to fans and that sort of thing.
Well, they're in town. Durant's in town. He was spotted yesterday, and Weaver.
Where'd you see him?
Scissorhands cut his hair. So
of course he did.
Of course he did. But
he called you and not me.
Weaver's in town. The guy they got out of Charlotte, and all the rookies were due in after that camp. The Mario Chalmers, Darrell Arthur rookie camp up there in New York. They were due in the day after that was over. So I think they're around, and when they do unveil the jerseys, I think we're going to see all the players.
Hope so.
Interesting. Vince on News OK wants to know, when will we see those uniforms, and will they be as blah as the logo?
Wow.
Anybody want to take that one?
I have to assume not. How could they be? Although I got to be honest, OSU trotted out new uniforms, and judging from the paper, they look pretty blah to me. So you never know, but. Generally speaking,
in, by the way,
no,
Jenny?
no, it's not in. It's not in.
Not in.
Just checking.
Generally speaking, in the sports that matter, uniforms that matter, which are basketball and football, the pros get it right. You don't see many bad NFL uniforms, and you don't see many bad NBA uniforms. So if we do have a bad uniform, we got a story on our hands.
Did he just say baseball uniforms don't matter?
Redhawks are leading the jersey derby by far. You were out of town, but now all they got to do is wear their batting practice gear during the game.
I like both. I like the overlapping OKC. I thought that was sharp. I do like the bird with the bat in his mouth. I mean, that's great.
It does look like a beer emblem, though, the OKC. So that's got that going for it. Thursday night, $1 beer, $1 hot dogs, from what I've been told.
About the uniforms, though, it seems to me that they've got a great color. I mean, you start there. That sky blue, that Oklahoma State flag blue, that's the part that's growing on me.
Distinctive. I really hope they use that predominantly. The secondary colors, I mean, they're secondary colors. Let's not have red jerseys. Let's not have yellow jerseys. Let's go with that blue, and let's have a lot of blue in the jersey.
I like the darker blue too.
Yeah, I think they'll do up a good jersey.
Unfortunately, what they got to get rid of is thunder. The font's too tall and narrow. It looks like a skyscraper, for crying out loud. And they're tall players.
It reminds me of one of those property of Appleton High School kind of deals.
But what about what if it's Oklahoma City across the jersey? To me,
not enough space. It's by the way,
OKC.
By the way, I hear they get upset if you refer to them as the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Really?
Violently ill. They want OKC Thunder.
Who does?
The
organization?
The brass.
I like OKC.
We at the radio, they said, don't call them Oklahoma Thunder. And I go, well, no kidding. But don't call them Oklahoma City Thunder. Call them OKC Thunder.
I noticed this online. A lot of places can't fit Oklahoma City, and so it's Oklahoma. On a lot of pull-down menus on ESPN and other places, they call them Oklahoma. They're going to have to fix that. Hey, another question. This is jumping leagues from George on News OK says, is Tony Romo the best quarterback in the league right now in the NFL? Barry, you want to take that one?
I don't think he was. I don't think he's the best quarterback in his own division, and I don't think he was the best quarterback in his own division because he wasn't the best quarterback on his own field on Monday night. Donovan McNabb, is not what he used to be, but he's still pretty darn good. Romo's one of the 10, maybe 8 best quarterbacks in the league, but no, he's not Peyton Manning. He's not Eli Manning.
There's your guy.
He's not, Tom Brady's out, but no, Romo makes still too many mistakes. You can't go dropping snaps and then fumbling around the ball and act like he doesn't have a handle on it. He's going to get better. He's only been in the league he's only been playing now almost 2 years. So he's going to be all right, but he's not anywhere near the best player in the league.
Let's wrap it up with don't be surprised if. Jenny?
Wow. I'm going to go with the local in-state team that's actually playing this week and say Tulsa's going to hang half 100 on New Mexico. Their offense is exciting.
What's New Mexico going to hang on Tulsa?
Less than that.
Don't be surprised if Troy beats Ohio State.
Ooh.
Okay, be surprised.
Is Josh Jarbo going to play in that game?
No, he's ineligible.
Barry?
Don't be surprised if the Euros sweep the Americans this week. 18, is it 18?
28 nothing?
Is that what it can be?
Yeah.
28 nothing. A football score in the Ryder Cup. No Tiger Woods, no confidence, no camaraderie. This is a train wreck of an organization, the American Ryder Cup team. The Europeans get ready for it. The U.S. hadn't won since '99. The home field advantage that John wrote about with Kenny Perry and whoever else is from Kentucky. J.B. Holmes. There you go. Quake in your boots, Europeans. J.B. Holmes is going to be playing against you. 28-zip, 4 touchdowns for the Europeans.
Hey, that's it. Thanks for joining us here on the Press Row. And don't be surprised if next week, this is a lot shorter of a program. Be here at 11:30, though, next Thursday for another conversation. And keep up with all the sports news with the best coverage team in the state at newsok.com, newsok.tv, and every day in the Oklahoman.
Let's see it.